Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. Apologies for the delay as per usual. I hope you liked the little video before with the trial of leading hand hooper. Something a bit different, so I really hope you guys enjoyed that. In this video we are looking at the kit and equipment of a soldier of the British Army, obviously. Again, specifically the Royal Hampshires again. But specifically this is a bit more different. It is Northern Ireland, but it's very much later. It's not completely the latest part of the Operation Banner, but this is 1987 in South Armagh. So a lot of the kit and equipment in this is very much a case of what we might call alley these days, in some sort of term or bougie or whatever you want to call it. Most of it is private purchase. I'll say most of it. Some of it is private purchase, I should say. And I will point out the items as we go through, and there are other items that come into this as well, specific for other uses and other individuals. Again, you see a lot of variation in kit in this tour specifically. A good reference I'm using is this, the Tiger Rag. There were two editions made during that deployment. This one, and then there's a slightly later one I believe as well. I don't have the other one on me, but this is a very, very good one. Especially the back cover, fantastic. But this is a good reference for myself, one for photos, two first-hand account from my own father. Basically, what I've modelled here, as you'll see soon, is going off what he specifically told me that he bought for that tour. So it's kind of that, along with some of the other guys bought similar things or basically the same kit as well. But going off what he specifically picked up for that tour, or just prior, I should say. So I'll quickly cut here. You'll see a map of the general area of operation for the battalion in 1987 from January through to June. I think it was June. Yeah, June of 1987. So I'll quickly cut here. Okay, so I hope that put a bit of context in. Obviously, you'd see the general area of operations, so it is basically border of the province of Ulster, of Northern Ireland. So we're down near the border of between Northern and the Republic. Specifically, the battalion, as you probably saw in that picture, is so Z and B Company are around the Crossmaglen area. A Company are around Falkhill, Mary Castle, etc. And individual units are sort of scattered in between that, but mostly around there. The main HQ, etc. was basically Bessbrook Mill, which was mortared during that deployment, and they had several other incidents. Well, one other main incident in that, and they had a lot of car searches, etc. But beside all that, I'll go through little bits as we go through, but let's talk about the kit on the mannequin. Okay, now onto the mannequin itself and what it's wearing. Starting from the top and working our way down, and then we'll get onto the ancillaries afterwards. We have the Mark 6. So, ballistic nylon helmet, brought in the base, well, was being trialled in the very late 70s, well, basically early 80s. Starts being issued properly to troops around 85, 86. The battalion, so 1st Battalion Hampshires, Royal Hampshires, start getting theirs about 86 after they've got back from their deployment to Germany as part of the Berlin Brigade. They were there for a couple of years. They were using the Mark IV steel helmets, and when they get back from there, a little while afterwards, obviously they get the Mark 6s. So when they go out to South Armagh in 87, they've all got these. Good helmet for its day. Suspension system's good. So in terms of the chin strap system, the actual inner cradle for your head leaves a lot to be desired. Basically, it's a drawstring, as I'll show you, which basically, if tied in a certain way, well, when it's tied at all, the knotted part will dig into the top of your head, into your skull, which is fairly uncomfortable. It is what it is. Wouldn't be really resolved to the Mark 6A, where it has a sort of mesh suspension system, which is far superior and much more comfortable. This one obviously is not a Mark 6A, it's a Mark 6. It's a slightly later one because it's got that granulated texture on the shell itself. I do have an earlier one, but it's far too big for my head. This one was originally and can be easily set back to its right version with the visor. As you can see, the neck protector here, I've folded up out the way to put the cover on. You see it slightly bulges out there, but for its purpose, not really too much of an issue. The cover's lovely. I believe this might be a slightly later cover, but the pattern itself is very much still of the 1980s pattern. I believe the elastics on this might be slightly later, but I can't exactly remember. But the elastics themselves on the foliage loops is completely shot on foobar. There's like crunches, as you could probably hear. Like it's gone. Doesn't really bother me, but it's what it is. Again, I would not taking the neck protector off just because how it's attached. You need to unloop all of the back of the chin strap itself, and it's been taped by the original owner of this helmet, and I don't really want to do that because it's all original to it, so that stays as it is. But all in all, good helmet, especially for its day. One of the few Western armies ready to start using ballistic helmets, really, properly in that sort of sense. Not the first and probably not the second, but one of the few at that point. Not until like you get to the 90s where most of the other Western countries start beginning to bring in these. Again, I might misspeak there, but as a general thing, that's what it is. One of the leading ones in NATO anyway, so. But anyway, I digress. Going down from there, just underneath everything, the first layer I've got here, there possibly could have another layer, maybe like a vest on, but the first layer on the mannequin itself is a Norgi, whatever you want to call it. Zip up pullover, basically. Well, half zip, starts at about where the collarbone is, zips all the way up to the neck, and it can cover the whole neck, or it can be folded down as I've got it here, depending on the weather. Especially considering the start of this tour was in January of '87. Weather was quite foul, as we'll get on with some of the other items that were used or purchased, I should say. But very good body warmer. Very popular throughout the 80s and from the first sort of wide use of it, or versions of it, I should say, in the Falklands and after for cold weather. It's just a good undershirt, really. Undergarment, or whatever you want to call it. So that's the underlayer here. Above that, the next layer, if I just slightly open this, I'll take the helmet off actually just for ease. We have the 84-85 pattern jacket, whatever you want to call it. These start trickling in for the battalion during their deployment in Germany. You start seeing them a bit in pieces here and there. By this point, obviously, we'll get onto a bit about boots. That's another transitional period for some of the army as well. Obviously, it started happening before that. It's a good few years before, but we'll get into that specifically when we get down. Again, it's all a lot of the transition is happening right now. Helmets, jackets, boots, etc., etc., etc. And the trials are getting in with certain other items as well, as we'll get on to later. So for a pattern jacket, a good and bad lead on from what was before. You would see guys still wearing 68 pattern trousers and jackets well on into the 90s, with not just the Royal Hampshires, but with other battalions as well and other regiments. Just because, one, if you could get it, it was useful. Especially going into the 90s, guys would try and buy them from somewhere, just because they're far superior in build. They're warmer. And again, it all comes back to build quality. It was thinner, which meant it was more, it dried easier. It was a bit more comfortable in some aspects, but build quality in terms of pockets was dreadful. They had billowed pockets, but they had a tendency just to blow out the bottom. A bit like what happened with windproofs, but at least windproofs, they were generally built better, but it was just after a long time wear they eventually did that. These tend to do it fairly often, especially on the trousers. The trousers have a massive tendency, if you put anything heavy in the pockets, on the billowed pockets on the legs themselves, they would blow out after walking around a bit, after it's constantly bouncing around. It would depocket itself, basically, whatever you had in there. I don't mind them. The Velcro cuffs are always quite useful. But again, it's build quality. That's all it comes back to. It was the same with the DMS boots. It was the same with a lot of other things that the British Army did. For example, when you get into the assault boot of the 1990s, that's another issue right there. But apart from that, going from the actual combat jacket itself, we have the main visual item of what's here. This is a barber jacket, very popular throughout from the late 70s or maybe even mid 70s all the way through. You see several of these specific ones used in the Falklands War by certain members of the Royal Marines and other units on an individual level, really, not necessarily a whole company or even battalion level. This specific example is the Selway zipper. One upper pocket, two lower below pockets. Inside pocket is quilted on the inside. Well, not quilted. It's like plaid on the inside. Very, very comfortable. It's a fabric collar. It can be put up and buttoned up at the top to give you good neck protection. It's all waxed, obviously, as most barbers or all barber jackets are, I should say. Or all the specific design, I should say. Well, you know what I mean. They're waxed, so it gives you good rain protection. Good warmth, as long as you've got layers underneath as well. You can wear it on its own, and which I have done, and you do get a lot of breathable air. But you want to have layers on in case it's cold. This is primarily a waterproof garment. There are different types which had better quilting or whatever inside. Again, this specific one doesn't necessarily have that. The one seen a lot during this deployment, when barber jackets are being worn, is specifically the DPM variant. There are several different types. I won't name them here. I don't have one of those, generally because I cannot afford one of those, and most people can't. The average price I've seen for the longer type of DPM barbers is around about £1,000 plus or minus within that general area of £100 here or there. Not cheap. This, however, was only £60. So it's and this was used as well. So there was several different types used of the plain style, of the brown and or DPM ones. My father himself had a DPM one. I asked him what happened to it. He basically, I think his quote was, the arse fell out of it after it was used constantly. You have to keep re-waxing them over a period of time to keep them basically wearable and useful. And you can send barbers off to the actual barber manufacturer and you can get them repaired, etc. But that's beside the point. So that's the jacket itself. Again, as I said, one upper pocket, two lowers. Very, very good. It's got inside elasticated waterproof cuffs in here with a small button closure, and it's elastic all the way around. And the jacket, the outer jacket itself, has overhang to cover your wrists. Button closure over large heavy duty barber zip. Very, very good. I'm very happy with this. I've worn it several times now already and I can't fault it really at all. Very, very good. Going down from there, we see the front of the belt. So this is a roll pin belt. This one's a slightly modded one from a company I can't remember the name of now. I think it's on the inside. Basically, it's a 58 pattern belt which has been modded with these, but by an actual manufacturer, or a surplus manufacturer, I think at the time. Very, very good. Much prefer this to the normal 58 because you want to get it off in a hurry. This is generally as I said, this is a personal item bought to fit it out. Standard yoke, nothing too different there. Left and right ammo pouches, no bayonet being carried. Again, there was no need. Especially when we get onto the actual weapons being carried as well. Obviously the SLR is being carried at this time. They have not transitioned over to the SA80 A1, the L85 A1 or whatever you want to call it. They've not transferred over to that yet. They are using some other things though at this time. So magazines being carried, obviously. Rifles could be carried as well, depending on what your task was. Belts for Gympie or magazines for the L4, etc, etc, etc. So that's the general front. We're going to spin around to the side and we'll have a look at that. Okay, now I'm looking at the side. I've lifted the arm out the way. lift this up away a bit more. You can see a bit more of the jacket itself. There's vents underneath for good breathability of the garment itself. Again, as I said, there's already layers on this, but every little like that helps, especially if you're just wearing it over like a t-shirt, etc. As you see the side profile of here, so we're looking at the man's left side. We have a bit of an interesting configuration with the webbing belt. So this specifically, I've gone off a photo, and well, a couple of photos of guys on the tour. This specific one mainly is a L4 Bren gunner who had replaced most of his pouches on his belt, on his kit, with the magazine pouches. And one, they're quick release and they're a bit more stiffer, and they when empty, they don't like sag or flop like say kidney pouches do. They're a bit more rigid with their construction, and they're a bit more easy to get, and they're quite deep as well, and you can get a lot on the belt. So that's what I've gone for this. So as you can see, left ammo pouch, another pouch here. This one has his Klansman PLC 349 radio. Folded up at the moment, not in use. You'll see the headphones around the corner in a minute just because of space wise. But when in use, this will all be deployed. So the radio's in there with the antenna. Again, extra pouch on the side you can use for anything else. Going around to here, we have a water bottle in its pouch. So we have two, I think. Well, I've kind of mixed up a bit. So we have a water bottle and its mug in here. Unlike, say, in the actual water bottle pack itself, which has something different in it, just because it fits easier in there than this is, and I'm less likely to have this in a rush, whatever. Again, this is going off pictures and also my personal use for the kit as well, for what I would want to put on that, for whatever reason. So again, you might be out on a patrol and something on you, not necessarily you might have whatever's in here, but that's just my personal preference or anything. Again, I just like having it with my kit so I can use it for any reason. So as I said, water bottle and cup. As you can see, the one at the back, we have a water bottle pouch. We have a bit more look as we turn round. But in there is my wash kit. Again, it's easier for me than having it, say, in my Bergen, where I might have to fumble around to find it. That can be easily just swapped out, because I could have a pouch in there, I can have a thing. So if need to, I can have my wash roll with me for general cleaning, shaving, and or just brushing my teeth. So it's there. I don't have to go to my Bergen. So if I'm going out on a patrol or whatever, for my personal use, it's just there. Again, that's just my personal preference. I could easily just remove that if I don't need it. So if it can be on the belt, it can be on the belt, but I put it there so it doesn't have to go in my Bergen, so I don't lose it. Going around from there, I'll spin round on camera this time. We have another pouch here. As I said, this has more magazines in it, and I think some other bits and pieces. I think mainly there might be some grenades in there actually, if I remember correctly. But you can see I've just attached the headphones here when not in use. When in use, obviously, I'll be wearing them. But if I open this up, that's there. In here, I've got a bunch of chem lights and some other items, etc. But mainly it's my radio stuff and headset. Again, more can go in here if need be. But as for that, that's what it is at the moment. As I said, this is the headset, the push to talk. So these came out in the late 70s, these versions, and obviously the Klansman was still in use by this point. We had not introduced the newer sets of like Bowman, etc. until like the 90s. So that's what's been carried. This is obviously a platoon. I, within my group, basically portray a platoon sergeant within my living history group. So that is generally my role. Platoon sergeant, I'm in contact with the section commanders and obviously the platoon commander as well. And if need be, I can take a section out if need be for whatever. In the context of my uses for this kit specifically, as well as showing it as in a historical context. So that's that. As I said, I've got chem lights in there, turning it round to the other side. we have the right hand ammo pouch. We have another ammo pouch here, again with more magazines. I believe in this one we have, yep, we have M16 magazines. So that puts me onto the point. The M16s. I will swing this round to the front now. There's not much to show, anything else really, but on one of the pouches where the chem lights were, torch for any use. Again, that's going off the pictures I've seen of the L4 Brain Gunner. With the setup, torch around the back, so he doesn't have to need it for immediate use, but it's there if he needs it. Turn this around to the front, to the full. Go on, stay up, don't be drunk. So, M16. Several times during deployments in Northern Ireland and other places, the British Army had used as a supplement for, say, light automatic fire. So you don't have to use a light machine gun like an L4 or a GPMG, or later the LSW as we get into the late 80s going into the 90s. You have quick fire. Yes, it's not as I say of a caliber like 7.62, it's 5.56 obviously, but you have that ability to lay down a magazine worth and get out. And the reason is that quick thing fire, but you can also, it's paired with the accurate fire that can be from the L1A1 SLRs carried by the section or whatever it may be. You can probably hear the dog in the background. So, yeah, so all that compared to everything else, it gives you a bit of versatility with the section patrol, whatever it may be. So, for example, the specific ones being carried is like this. So the M16A1, or whatever you want to call it, probably got the nomenclature wrong, but you know, everyone knows what it is. With the triangular handguard by this point still, you don't start getting the round handguards with, say, regular line infantry units until probably basically until the 90s. Well, I say that, by that point the SA-80 was in use, so probably not as much really. By this point though, you are seeing the 30 round mags. You do occasionally see the 20 rounders, but by this point of the late 80s you are seeing the 30 round mags. In this configuration, I've seen them with starlights and the night vision scopes. I've seen them with single points. I've seen them with M203s, again on this tour, M203 grenade launchers, all sorts on this tour. I've seen them with some weird scopes as well. But a lot of guys are carrying these. This isn't the exact configuration of a British use M16 for the period, but it's close enough. You do see them with the bird cage and the 3-prong flash hider at this time, but it's a good stand-in and it does the job. This is an airsoft one. I picked up a good few years ago, but that specifically fills in the gap. So that's basically for the standard for the wearing kit we see on the mannequin. Going into some of the other niche things, we have these. So as I said, especially the early months of that tour are very, very wet and damp and cold. You see a lot of guys wearing these, or ones like these. These specifically are the Berghaus Yeti gaiters. These are the ones specifically my dad said he bought. It's the type anyway. I believe so anyway, is what I've been told. Velcro, you do see others being used. Treads go with the boots, so there we go. Great bit of kit. Again, keeps the water out of your boots. And on the subject of boots, going from this, but I'll quickly show any other labels on here. So here we go. So these are size extra large, Berghaus. And there's the quality control tag as well. So Velcro and then zip all the way down the front. Rubber base onto it, which goes over the boot, which keeps it all sealed and stops them riding up. But great bits of kit, and obviously to keep the water out. Going on to boots, as I said, the standard army boot at the time was the Boots Combat High, BCH. Preferably the Mark II by this point. The Battalion started getting BCH, the first issue ones, back in 1982 just before they went out to the Falklands, the latter part of 82. They served in Fermanagh early in the year. They'd done public duties to fill in for basically the Scots and or Welsh Guards in Windsor, and before they went out to the Falklands in late 82, they received BCHs, and probably one of the first line infantry regiments to get a full complement of those boots anywhere really. You don't see basically the rest of the army start using BCHs until 83, 84. So it's a good trial run on a larger level. You see those. In terms of private purchase items for boots wise, my father and probably a couple of the guys bought boots like, for example, like Lundhags. So Lundhags are I think they're a Norwegian brand, if I remember correctly, or Danish brand. I think they're Norwegian. Very good boot apparently. They've been going for years and years and years. They're very, very hard wearing. Very, very good boots. Not the cheapest. Again, a bit like the Barber jackets. The average pair of Lundhags that are sort of roughly correct for this period, we're talking about 400 to 450 euro. So that's close to probably about 350 to 400 pounds basically. And I'm not really thinking of spending that much money on some boots. So that's beside the point. But anyway, that's sort of boots wise. I'll try and put some pictures at the end of the boots, of what roughly ones I'm thinking they are, that I've been told they were. Other than that, in terms of other kits being used, we will look at the large carry system. So Bergens, British Army and Bergens go hand in hand really. That's another area where we see, especially during the Falklands, a lot of private purchase, for example like Carrymore Jaguar 4s and other items like that, especially Berghouses as well, the original Rock Cyclopses. And then we get into this. This is a mid-late 80s Rock Cyclops, so Berghaus. So main one compartment, this can be modular as well, that can be added to. Internal waterproof liner all the way down. This can, I believe, they can have frames. This one has a partial frame on it, of reinforcement on the top, padded straps to the arms, carry hand at the front, and can be pulled tighter on the sides as well. Belt fastener at the front, as you can see. So it's a twist lock, so it can be pushed out, and it's basically, you push that in, or you file it through there firstly, through there, and it locks in place. So we have the Berg buckle, as it says there, and that can be pulled taut, as you can see there, or loosened like that. So this is all padded on the belt as well, padded back. The front, I'm going to get this out of the way, straps, etc., so you can add stuff on the outside. This one, for example, doesn't have the outer pockets on the side and on the other side, but they can be added. Reinforcement on the sides here and bottom of the buckles as well. Very good modular system, very good rucksack, or Bergen, whatever you want to call it. On the lid itself, there is an extra top pocket as well, zip up for use as well. The main compartment is drawstring, like so, to tighten up the top to get it all in place. Again, another item very, very useful. I will at some point attempt to get the more other parts of the modular system for this one specifically, but again, great bit of kit and not a bad find either. I managed to get it for 20 quid about a month or so ago now, whenever it was, well, just under a month ago anyway. But very, very good bit of kit. That basically sums it all up, really, in terms of the general bits and pieces one I have here. Other items, obviously, depends on what your role is, depends on when in the sort of period of the deployment you are. If you're on the later part, you might not be wearing a barber, you might just be wearing your normal combat jacket. Windproofs as well. Windproofs are extremely popular during this deployment, and probably around about the whole sort of later part of the 80s anyway, into the 90s. windproof smocks, windproof parkas, whatever you want to call them, etc. For the majority of this deployment, when out on patrol, you're wearing your helmet. You're not wearing berets like you see during urban tours. But during these rural ones, you would be wearing a helmet all the time, basically, out on patrol. Again, as I said, that basically sums it all up. So I hope you've enjoyed. If it's been a bit erratic, I apologise. But yeah, that's basically the sums everything up. If you've got any questions, please drop them down in the comments down below. If you like and subscribe, that'd be very much appreciated as well. Hope to have some new content coming up soon. That's a bit more different. Trying to do some collaborative stuff as well with some other people. Like I have a short while in the past with Levi. Possibly some more of that in the future. And with one or two other people as well. That'd be great to do as well. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good evening, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.
All the stories have been told of kings in days of old, but there's no England now. All the wars that were won or lost somehow don't seem to matter very much anymore. All the lies we were told, all the lives of the people running round, their castles are burned. I see change, but inside we're the same as we ever were. Living on a thin line. Tell me now, what are we supposed to do? Living on a thin line. Tell me now, what are we supposed to do? Living on a thin line. Living this way, each day's a dream. What am I? What are we supposed to do? Living on a